Hey everybody, it's Veronica Best, and you're listening to Who Told You? An intricate infusion of inspiration, one episode at a time. And I'm so excited to be here to talk about our thought life. That's what this podcast is all about. Your thoughts are ultimately what pave your decisions, your life, everything. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about who told you you couldn't get over your past. And I'm so excited to be here with my first time guest, first episode recording. She is an accomplished mother, grandmother. She's a massage therapist, certified massage therapist, does an amazing massage, y'all. She is an artist. She can make literally anything. She's made so many things for me, helped me decorate my house, costumes for school, centerpieces, sculptures, and big backdrops. And I mean, it's just amazing the things that she creates. She's also currently working on building her company, which is called Sweet Lavender Decor. So with no further ado, I would like to introduce to you my older sister, Lisa Gonzalez. So Lisa, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a little quirky. Maybe a lot.
For real?
For real. Like you said, I am a mother of two. I have a 21 and a 20-year-old, believe it or not. And I also have a 3-year-old grandson who I absolutely adore.
Mm-hmm.
I do absolutely adore people. I love art, food, family. I love life.
Yes, you do. And if you had to be one Disney princess, just out of curiosity, I have to know, who would it be and why?
I would be Moana because honestly, she is super cute.
Yes, she is.
And she didn't have to have a prince to save her. And
that's very good. I never thought about that.
Figured out everything basically on her own. She figured out how to fix the problem that they were having by herself.
Yeah, that's true. She did get some help from the demigod.
Yeah, she did get some help from him, but he actually was really annoying. Right?
Yeah.
Seriously. But, ultimately she figured out that the monster was really the goddess.
Tahiti?
Yeah, Tahiti.
Or Tahari?
Whatever her name
Tahoma? I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But she figured it out. And
that's a good point.
So, yeah, I would have to be Moana.
And you know what I love about Moana? She's thick.
She's sure is.
She's chunky.
Thick.
Like, finally. What other Disney princess has some meat on her bones? I'm just like, them princesses like to eat.
Of course they do.
If they live in royalty, I mean, they got the brownies, the Hawaiian. What was she? Hawaiian?
Yeah, she's Hawaiian.
Okay. Them Hawaiians eat. You've seen them big old guys, the Israel. Do you know one of the songs I love so much? Somewhere. The little Hawaiian guy. What's his name? Israel something?
Yes.
Okay, but my point is they all eat. And every single freaking Disney princess is like size 2. What is up with that? It's so annoying. So I love that about Moana.
Yes.
But I think I would have to, even though I seriously love Moana, I would have to choose Ariel. Because I've been obsessed with her my whole life.
Honestly, her whole entire life.
I don't know. I love the fact that she sings and she's so ah. And I remember, I have vivid memories of me singing that in the shower. And hearing mom yell and be like, "Cállate, Veronica!"
I have vivid memories before Ariel came into your life of you being a baby in your little car seat and you were tired and you would hum yourself to sleep. Literally, she's had music in her being since, I would say, probably even before you were born.
Oh my God. When I was fetus.
Yes.
Tissue, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
No, I was a formed baby. Mom went into labor at church on the choir practice.
Yes.
They were having choir practice and she went into labor while she was singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, so I wanted to share really quickly before we dive into our topic, this awesome product, you guys. I am not trying to get sponsorship or anything like that. I'm not here to endorse Walmart, but dude, the other day I was at my kid's school and I smelled this smell. I was like, is that brownies I smell? Like, it was amazing. And I was like, oh my God. and I just walked down the hallway. It was after school. I was like popping my head into different classrooms, and I was like, "Where is that smell coming from right now?"
She was looking for some brownies.
And so finally, I was almost at the end of the hallway, and I find one of the third grade teachers with her kids, her own biological kids, and she's like, "Hey," and I was like, "Oh my God, what's that smell?" And she said it was this. They're scented wax cubes. Okay, and you have to try this. It's $2, I think, for 6 cubes. You take the cube, you put it in a canister that you plug in the wall, and the canister is $6. So less than $10. And I promise you, and this flavor is flavor. See, you can't eat it. It's not a flavor. It's a scent. But I'm listen. It makes you want to eat. Okay, so just beware. But brownie pecan, my people, it's so insanely good. And it filled up the entire hallway at school. And now, like,
her house smells like it.
Yes. Like, the minute I get home, I plug it in. The cube lasts probably like 3 days. And then you change the cube. You just dump the wax. I dump it like just as it's melting, so it's easy to like scoop out or whatever. But I love it. And I've tried everything. I've tried incense, the Yankee Doodle candles, the wallflowers from Beth. Well, you know what I'm talking about, those expensive candles.
Well, these little waxy things also come in. The Yankee candles also makes these waxy things. I have like floral scents.
Okay. I'm going to try that. But I think now because the holidays, like I wanted it to be something food related. Because this is the time to gain weight, you guys. You know?
No.
We don't have to carb count right now. Like, just eat.
Oh, no.
You know, you got, like, so many holidays back to back to back. Like, seriously, from October to December is no joke.
No, I'm sticking to my plan.
Well, praise God. But anyway, so who told you cannot get over your past? Now, the reason why I chose this topic and this guest is because I recently, this month, we're going to be talking about the month of November, we're going to be looking at the book called Switch on Your Brain, The Key to Peak Happiness, Thinking, and Health by Dr. Caroline Leaf. I don't really have time to read books because I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a minister, I head up the PTA at my kid's school. Like, I'm constantly busy. So I don't actually read books. I listen to audiobooks.
Yeah.
And you guys, you would be surprised how many books you can read or listen to, whatever. So I downloaded an app called Scribed. And if you go to your Google Play or your App Store, you just search Scribed without the E at the end. So it's SCRIB-D, Scribed. It's $9 a month or $9.99, whatever. And you get unlimited audiobooks. So it's better than Audible, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah. So far, I've listened to this book, Switch on Your Brain, The Key to Happiness, Thinking, and Health by Dr. Caroline Leaf. I've listened to it twice already. And I'll like rewind it. You know how you can rewind on your app when you're listening to a podcast or a YouTube video, whatever. You can rewind it 15 seconds or fast forward it 50. So like if I hear something I really like, I'll just keep rewinding it and listen to it over and over again. So we're going to be using that book as the basis for our podcast episodes this month. And I'll have different guests. I'm going to keep them a surprise because I just want to keep it fun. So that is why I chose the topic, who told you can't get over your past? Okay. So one of the first things that I wanted to talk about and start us off with is a quote. And this is from Dr. Caroline Leaf's book, Switch on Your Brain. And this is what she says. She says, thoughts are real, physical things that occupy mental real estate. Moment by moment, every day, you are changing the structure of your brain through your thinking. When we hope, it is an activity of the mind that changes the structure of your brain in a positive and normal direction. So, my sister is here as our special, lovely guest, and she has an amazing story of overcoming the past. And so, how do you feel like this quote applies to your life? Like just how thoughts can change the direction.
In a lot of ways, like outwardly, people would see, the positive. I was always smiling, always happy, this, that, and the other. But inside, I was always beating myself up. Like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't perfect enough. I wasn't doing right enough. I wasn't a good enough mom. I wasn't a good enough sister, a good enough daughter, a good enough this, a good enough that.
And what do you think set that off? Like what triggered that cycle?
I mean, very early on. It began very early on. My parents were very young, 15 and 17. So you can only imagine they were still growing up. And I mean, when you're growing up, how can you raise a child? So I went through a lot of things in my life. And I mean, I had people abandon me. I had sexual abuse, verbal abuse, mental abuse, neglect. I mean, I had a little bit of everything.
Right.
And so with that being said, it sets up for your thought process about yourself when you don't have that emotional support, especially that, because I had clothing and I had food and I had, those kinds of necessities in my life, but what was lacking was the emotional aspect of that.
And that's so interesting to me because like you are, as long as I've known you my whole life, you are always very emotionally expressive. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But sexual abuse is something that for me or, people that I have ministered to, that I've spoken to, sexual abuse is so lasting.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like it really alters your identity.
Yes.
And it changes the way you look at yourself. It changes the way you feel about yourself. And it does give you that sense of, like you were saying, I was happy on the outside, but on the inside, I was tormented. Mm-hmm.
A lot.
Yeah.
And up until recently, it was like there was like this shift in my life. And I began to realize, because I came out of a very broken marriage. And when I did, I said, something's got to change within me. Mm-hmm. It can't just always be, because I really had a real victim mentality about me. And it's something that I struggle with even now. And I have to, like she says, it's the way you think. And when I divorced my husband, I decided that I was going to work on me and who I was and loving myself and figuring out who I truly am and learning to think what I was showing on the outside.
Right.
Learning to love myself. And I'm not talking about in an arrogant, cocky kind of way.
Like, well, I love you, girl.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about loving my quirkiness. Like,
right. Just who you are.
Yeah, just who I am. Like appreciating me. And as I started going down this journey, I read, I listened, I researched, I read on Instagram and, podcast or, just different places. And I started realizing that really our thoughts, I've been a massage therapist for 15 years. I mean, I really know my stuff. And even as a massage therapist, I was always second guessing myself. And then I just came to the realization, wait a minute, you're a massage. I went to school. I learned about the body. I learned about this and that and the other. And when I started changing my thought process, even as a massage therapist, about my children, about my finances, about me, I started seeing big shifts. And at work, like I am booked all the time. Like right now, if you want to come see me on a Saturday,
it's impossible.
It's impossible. I'm booked all the way to the end of December almost.
That's awesome.
And within the last 2 years, I've lost 71 pounds.
Wow.
And
girl, pray for me. Right here. Give me some of that anointing.
And that was another. I used to emotionally eat. Like, and so,
Yes.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you that I don't ever do that.
Girl.
That wouldn't be true. But food was such a crutch for me. And I have learned, and I'm continually learning, that the way I think about food, the way I feel about food, it literally controlled me.
Why are you trying to convict me? Well, I love what you said when you said I had a victim mentality, because a lot of times we have that and we don't realize it, and that's something that Dr. Caroline Leaf says in her book. She says, we are not victims of our biology. We are co-creators. Listen how cool this is. We are co-creators of our destiny alongside God. God leads, but we have to choose to let God lead. We have been designed to create thoughts, and from these, we live out our lives. Like, even for me, doing this podcast, recording my own music. I'm trying to think of other things that like I always wanted to do, but yet in my head, right? It's like you have this inner monologue and you have this looping recording, right? It's telling you like, nah, you can't do that. Yeah. No, you don't know what you're talking about. Nah. And I was like, wait a second. I got 3 degrees, like 3 university degrees. Why can't I do it? Or you never went to music school. You never learned how to read music before, so many things that pop in your head. And like you were saying, I never felt like I was enough or I had enough to do what I was doing, but I was totally trained. I was totally, taught in a school. So it's like, it's amazing how we can become victims to ourselves. It's totally. Like we chain ourselves, and no matter how crappy our childhoods are, because we all have a rough time as a child. I mean, I'm sure, okay, someone out there has this beautiful childhood, but for the most part, like every single one of us has things that really hurt us as children. Not everybody was sexually abused. We both were sexually abused growing up. Not everybody has that. Some people, have other things. It could be verbal abuse. It could be emotional abandonment. I know one byproduct for me that I believe comes from my thought life, right, is the fact that I have like emotional constipation. It's like when you're constipated, you can't get it out and it's all dry, and it's like you want to feel or you want to express what you're feeling. And yes, I'm very expressive, but like, for example, we had a surprise party for our other sister, Charmaine. It was her 40th birthday, right? Yeah. And so we had done all this work. Decorations were amazing. I'll share pictures so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. But it was like a wedding. And I wanted, like, inside, I felt like crying. You know what I mean? It's like, I want to cry. I want to be like that girl, like her, right? She'll be like, oh, happy birthday. I love you so much. Like, she'll just gush this emotion, right? But then I'm just like emotionally constipated. It's like, I'm like, I can't.
Why do you think that is?
Honestly, I feel like from a little girl, I feel like it's weak. Like showing emotions is a sign of weakness. So it's just amazing how our thoughts, like the power of our thoughts. And that's really where this podcast comes from. Who told you that expressing emotions is weak? Thus, emotional constipation. Or, who told you that you didn't know enough to do your profession? You know what I mean? Or who told you that you're not smart enough or beautiful enough, or, whatever the case may be. It's like, it's amazing the things that we come up with in our own mind. And I constantly have to ask myself, who told me that? Like, why am I thinking that? You know what I'm saying? So now, when you were in this relationship, what was something that you feel like just a lie or a mental roadblock that you would continuously tell yourself that you kind of, got over?
Well, in my relationship, I was told that I was ugly. No, I mean, it was much more than that. He would say that I was disgusting. And
you've never told me that before. Wow, that's crazy.
And he was extremely verbally abusive. I stayed in that marriage for so long because I did not want to fail.
Right.
Like,
you feel like it's giving up. Like, I don't want to admit failure.
I don't want to admit failure, you know, and I was determined to make it work. It didn't matter what he did, what he said, and I mean, I woke up one day, and literally when I woke up, I had a dream that night. I don't know what the dream, I cannot remember what the dream was but when I woke up and there was like a mirror catty-cornered to my bed. And I woke up, I sat up in my bed literally, and I was like, what the heck are you doing, Lisa, with your life? Like, what, it was like, from the dream that I had, what was I doing? Why was I in this?
Right. Like, you just woke up like, okay.
Like, I just woke up, like, and I remember being like, that's it. I'm done. This is it. And that day I told this person that I wanted a divorce. And when I said I wanted a divorce, I filed within the next few days. And from there, my new journey began. Like, I knew that I needed to do something to heal. Yes, to heal. I was tired of being a victim, of being whatever the case may be. Like, I was happy, but I was tormented. Like, you know, and that was all in here. It was in the way I thought about things. You know what I mean? And it was tough. Yeah. But I've come a long way. But let me tell you, those thought processes and the things that, the way you think, the way you act and stuff, you can, the thing that I most dislike about the fact that my past was that I passed those patterns and those imprints, because literally they're imprints onto my children. And as I'm growing, I'm sharing with them, you know, which I think
it's like you're inheriting, or you're giving as an inheritance your pain to your kids. Yes. You know, and your patterns. Yes. Like the way you respond and the way you process.
Yes, the way you think, the way you process. And as I'm learning to rethink and relearn, I follow this lady on Instagram. I wish I could remember. I think it's Self Healer. And she talks about the fact that a lot of times in families, we grow up in families where love is brought to us, that love and abuse can work as functional. Right.
And most of the times your abuser is someone you genuinely love. Yes. And you will love, like, throughout the abuse and after the abuse. Yes. If the abuse ever finishes, ever stops, I mean, you will continue to love that person. Because that's what allows you to stay in it. Yes. It's like, I'm going to put up with this pain and this torment because I love this person.
But what she says is that's not true. And I guess, you know, from things that happened from my childhood, that I carried that on into my relationships, because as one of my therapists told me, life is a pattern. What we do is we continually act out the same patterns we had in our childhood. And so that's why when I had relationships, that's why I was constantly finding people that would fit those profiles, those imprints. And so she says that we need to learn to break those imprints. Right. And the only way to do that is to break the way we think.
Oh my gosh.
Get rid of that victim mentality. If you don't get rid of the victim mentality, you're always going to be a victim. Yeah. You're never going to be a victor. You're never going to truly heal. And I think, I mean, I have learned so much. And another thing she talks about is when we attract people, a lot of times the things that we dislike the most about them is a mirror image of ourselves in our past. and that we
like we're attracted to something familiar, even though we hate it.
Exactly.
Familiar to us.
Yes. And one of my therapists in the past also, he said that, let's say that you grew up in a household where the happiness level was a 3 and your spouse, it was a 6. And you guys start off and everything's so wonderful and it's always a 6 and a 6. But a 6 is not comfortable to you. So you're going to do everything in
to
your
drag
power
it down.
to bring it down to that 3.
Wow, that's crazy.
Because that is your life pattern or that is your imprint. And if you don't start changing again your thought patterns, you're going to constantly live out that 3 or whatever it is for you. And so in order to go from a victim to a victor, you got to do something with this and this.
Right. And that's like Dr. Leaf, one of the main verses that she refers to is Psalms 23:7. As a man thinks, or as a woman thinks, so is he, so is
Amen.
she. And when I was, I'm a high school English teacher and Spanish teacher. Before I taught online, I would teach in a real actual school. And I remember I would put like a quote of the day on the board, and the quote of the day would always be a Bible verse. And I didn't put the reference because I didn't want to get fired, but I would just put the verse itself. And one verse that I would come back to and write on the board and repeat as the phrase of the day was that verse: as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Because I would tell my students all the time, like, whatever you imagine yourself as, like when your mind daydreams, okay, and your mind just kind of goes off into la la land, and you imagine yourself, like whatever you visualize in your head, it's biblical. Like, that is what you're gonna be. Like, that is who you are. You're setting up your life based on the way you think, and nobody can change that for you. Like, you could have somebody come and tell you you're smart, you're amazing, you're great, you're successful, blah 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 blah, the most beautiful things in the world. But if you don't believe it yourself, if you don't see that yourself, like you were saying, I was just caught in this victim mentality. Like, I constantly just believe this lie, because when you're born and then you're abused, it's like you take on this identity of, like, I remember for me, I think the one word that I would use is abnormal. I always felt like I'm not like the other girls. I always felt like I'm not feminine enough, or I'm not girly enough, or you feel like it's just I just don't got it. Like, that's not in me, I'm too rough, I'm too tough, or I'm too boyish, or whatever. But that, like, once that's in here, because you can't control what thoughts come to your mind. You can't control what thoughts come to your mind, okay? Crazy thoughts come. Let's, like, hello. Okay. But we can't control if the thoughts stay.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can't control what comes in. Stuff is going to come in, and you can do your best to wear it off, right?
Yeah.
But you can't control if it stays there. And I have talked to so many people just throughout these years of ministry. I've been doing ministry. I started a ministry 5 years ago in 2014. Like, you would not believe the amount of people that have just believed a lie. It comes down to something, like you said, it's all up here. It's all up in your head, So just real quick before we take a break, we're going to take a little commercial break, y'all. And while we do that, I just want to give you a heads up on the next half. The next half is practical ways to come out of a victim mentality and get over your past. I'll see you guys on the flippity flip. Want to hear more episodes of Who Told You? Be sure to subscribe, like, and sharing is caring. You can also follow Lisa Gonzalez, our special guest, on Instagram, handle sweet_lavender_decor. And be sure to check out Dr. Caroline Leaf's book, Switch On Your Brain. Links below in the podcast notes. So what we want to do now is just kind of dive right into 5 ways
you can get over your past. And remember, we kind of talked about the victim mentality, right?
Yes.
And how you have to just really analyze your brain, analyze the way you think. And one thing that I love about, again, Dr. Caroline Leaf's book, Switch on Your Brain, Peak Happiness, Health, and Peak Thinking, is to change your brain. I'm looking for the doggone quote. Where'd I put it? So just to remind everybody, she said, thoughts are real physical things that occupy mental real estate. Moment by moment, every day, you are changing the structure of your brain through your thinking. When we hope, it's an activity of the mind that changes the structure of our brain in a positive and normal direction. And I'll be honest, I think it's like when you see people that are, like, for an example, you see a girl that is like 300 pounds plus, all right, obese, heavy set, and I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just drawing an example. Like, you ever seen somebody that's like super confident?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're like, God, she's beautiful. Like, anything she puts on, anything she fixes her hair, whatever, and you're just like, she is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But it's because of her brains.
Exactly.
It's because of the way she's thinking, you know? It's like, I don't know if you've seen School of Rock.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, with Jack Black, where there's this one part where he's like, you got to use your head and your brain and your mind too, or something like that. But, he's like trying to teach the kids how to do music or whatever. But it's just so true. Like, it sets the stage for your life.
It sure does.
Yeah. So what are some ways that you got out of that victim mentality thinking? And got over your past, got over the abuse, got over the childhood abuse.
Well, first I want to answer you. The title today is "Who Told You You Couldn't Get Over Your Past?" I told myself I couldn't get over it. Honestly, again, that victim mentality. So I wanted to say that, just to make it clear.
That's so good.
So, so many times we can blame others. I could blame the people who abuse me, the sexually abused, and I was raped at 11, and whatever the case, the person who did that, or or my ex-husbands, or not going to school, or whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, it was the way I thought about myself that told me that I couldn't get over it. And how have I changed my thought patterns? A lot of it is, and this has been a long process, even when I was still in the middle of being a victim, per se, forgiveness.
So that's probably number one.
Yeah, for real. Like, I don't care what walk of life you come from, as a Christian, and even I pray for you if you're a non-Christian. Wherever you're at, forgiveness is key.
Yeah, and that's anywhere. Like she said, any religion, any way of thinking, we all have our different beliefs. We all have our different opinions, our different philosophies. But one thing, it's actually traceable, like scientifically traceable. And Dr. Caroline Leaf, if you want to check out her podcast, it's amazing. She breaks down the science of how emotions are measured and how emotions affect you, like affect your health, negative emotions, all that stuff. And negative emotions come from negative thinking.
Yes.
So yeah, forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Forgiving whoever did whatever in your life, but also forgiving yourself. Because I constantly put myself in a position as an older person, maybe not as a young child, but, in my relationships or whatever the case may be, I was the one who did it. Nobody else. I can't blame anybody else. It was me. And I had to forgive myself also for certain things, certain repetitions that I did. I had to change my thought process and forgive myself for allowing myself to be in situations that I should have never been in. And so positive self-talk is really, really, really important. Like looking at myself and saying, you know what, you're kind of cute.
I love that. So first, forgiving others, forgiving yourself, and secondly, positive self-talk.
Yes, definitely. Like I had to come to the realization that, like, all my life, I mean, as far
all my life, I pray for someone like you. Sorry.
I can think back always being very artistic and drawing and painting and creating, but I could never accept that I was an artist.
Like I remember you saying, I just wouldn't call myself an artist.
Exactly.
I couldn't describe myself that way. That was just too sophisticated.
Yes.
You know, that was too like uppity, and I wasn't that good. And you're like, what?
And now I'm like, what? I got
I'll
this.
show you guys pictures of what she made for our sister's birthday like 2 weeks ago. It's amazing. We did the whole like Great Gatsby theme. Oh my God. And on positive self-talk, you know, me and Mom did that mother-daughter conference.
Oh, yeah.
Back in August. So I've never done a mother-daughter retreat, and we were invited to speak. And one thing that they wanted us to touch on a lot was the sexual abuse. You know, like they asked my mom, like, Eloisa, how did you respond to that? Like when you found out that your daughter was being abused and blah, 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 you know, because it was another family member or whatever. And just hearing my mom, you know, like after years, you're like, you've never said that to me. Like, I mean, it was just revelation and the power of positive in being like, hey, I felt this way, but then I realized this, and you know, bringing that to light and bringing that to the open and being open about it. And that's what I love about this podcast.
Yeah,
is that, you know, it's going to open up conversations with the listeners, to maybe go back to a loved one, maybe go back to someone that you're at odds with, or maybe there was a lot of hurt and you're like, you know, why did that happen? Or what did you feel? You know, just those revelations of positive self-talk, having those conversations with others and yourself. And one thing that I shared with the girls at the mother-daughter conference, which I told them, I said, tape this to your bathroom mirror. It's a handout. And I'll share the image on my page so that if you want to use it. But it's the ABCs. It's all Bible verses from the Bible of what God says about you. So A, I am anointed by God, 1 John 2:27. B, I am blessed with every spiritual blessing, Ephesians 1:3. C, I am commissioned to make disciples, Matthew 28:19 and 20. D, I died with Christ, died to the power of sin's rule over my life, Romans 6:1-6. E, I have eternal life, John 10:27. F, I am chosen by Christ to bear his fruit, John 15:16. G, I have been given God's glory, John 17:22. H, I have been healed, Isaiah 53:5. And it goes on. I am beautiful. I am Jesus' friend. I am kind. I am the light of the world. I have the mind of Christ. No evil will conquer me. No disease will come near my dwelling. O, I am under an open heaven. P, I've been given peace. And it goes all the way through. So you guys can check it out and download it and print it out. But I have it on my mirror. And I say it to myself. I look at myself and I'm like, Veronica, you're anointed. You're blessed with every spiritual blessing. You're commissioned. You are a good friend. You are kind. Not all the time. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm working on it. And I even told my kids, you know, because every morning on the way to school, we memorize Bible verses. So like they've almost got 3 chapters memorized. Ephesians,
awesome.
Ephesians 4, Colossians 5, and Galatians 5, or Colossians 3 and Galatians 5, which all have to do with character building. But now I'm challenging them because I pay them $1 for every verse that they memorize verbatim. So now we're doing these ABCs because I'm like, I tell my kids, like, you need to know who you are. Talk to yourself. And it gets you so hype. You know?
It does.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. Like with my grandson, right now I am taking care of him. And every day I tell him, you are smart, you are handsome, because I want him to be a confident man. You know, he needs to be confident. And he'll come up and say, Mimi, I'm so handsome. I'm so smart. And he's so cute. He is confident. He is really confident already.
He is. And he makes the best friend wherever he goes.
He does.
He's like best friends with everybody.
Everybody. He talks
Like, hey,
to
best friend.
He talks to everybody. We're in the grocery store. He wants to get to know everybody. It's awesome.
Well, another thing is, on top of the self-talk, it's like, you ever have those days where you're just in a bad mood?
Oh, yeah.
Things aren't working out. I promise you, if you start self-talking yourself, like in the mirror, like sometimes I get really intimidated when I'm around people that are better singers or better musicians. Like I clam up. I'm like, because I'm so passionate about music that it's like, I don't know, I just can't handle it, okay? I'm insecure, whatever. So if I get around those situations where like, I know like, dude, this person is way better than I am or whatever, like I'll go to the bathroom. And whether it's at a church or wherever I'm ministering at, whatever, I'll go into a bathroom and I'll just start talking to myself.
Hey.
I'll look at myself in the mirror. I'll be like, "You're anointed. What's wrong with you, girl?" Like, and it's almost like when David said, he said, "Bless the Lord, oh my soul." Like that was self-talk.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
Yes.
I always looked at words like bricks. You know what I mean? A
Yeah.
brick. You can use a brick to build something, or you can take that same brick and knock somebody out, and they pass out with a concussion. You know what I'm saying? Like your words are building yourself or others up. It's like, and that's the power of self-talk. So what's number 3?
Find a hobby. Something that you love. Something that's yours. Something that's for you.
Yeah.
That's really important. Something that you can put your energy into other than work and family and children. And I think we all need something that's our own.
It's like an outlet.
Yes.
It's a release. Mm-hmm. It's like for me, I would say my hobby is probably music. You know, it is my profession, but it's also my music. I mean, I hate to say ministry is a profession, but if you're receiving money for what you do, it's a profession. Like sitting at the piano, even though it is what I do every week, it's like,
she loves it.
Well, when you do something you love,
yes,
you create it,
and
you're just like, like it's such a release.
But you know what? I think it's more than that. It's a gift. I mean, God gives us all gifts.
Yeah.
And that's why when you do it, you feel such a relief.
Yeah.
It's like God gave me the gift of
art.
Yeah. And so when I do it, like I remember when she said she's going to share pictures when I was making the backdrops and stuff for Charmaine's party. I mean, I was up at 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning painting. Okay. And I was tired, but I was invigorated.
Yeah. You had joy.
Yes.
You're like, I love this.
I love this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
So find something that's yours for sure.
Yeah. And something that honestly brings joy.
Yes.
Like this wall, y'all, I built this wall. Okay. And I'm not like a decor person at all. I suck at that. Like for real. I'm not good at it. But, we worked together on the birthday party. Like she just kind of told me, hey, go do this, whatever. I didn't do nearly as much as she did, first of all. And then it gave me...
She did a lot.
Well, but it gave me a lot of confidence. So like the next day after Charmaine's birthday party, it was like a wedding. Like the next day was Levi's birthday party because Levi's my youngest son. He was turning 6. So I was like, maybe I can go to Pinterest and figure a little something out. So I was like scrambling and it came out good.
It came out great.
And then I was like, it was like this whole balloon thing, Power Rangers thing, whatever. And then I was like, okay, maybe I can make a backdrop for the podcast release, And I was like, okay, here I go. And then I just figured it out. So find something that, maybe if it's something that you've never done before, like I wasn't good at decor, I wasn't good at podcasting. I'm still like, have no idea what I'm doing, which is why I look crazy. But, like just try it. You know what I mean? Like a paint class, a cooking class.
Yeah.
Watch tutorials if you can't afford to take the class.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I want to do watercolors. I've been dabbing into it for a little bit, and that's what I do. I go on YouTube and Pinterest, and I've learned little things for watercolor.
Yeah, like she's gonna do a class. We're gonna try to do it together on how to refinish cabinets.
Yeah.
I've never like been good at stuff like that. Like I wasn't crying because I'm not a crier. Like, I'll cry for the Lord and stuff like that, but usually I don't cry very easy.
I cry all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
whenever we're having like family gatherings, I already know. I'm like, because like for Thanksgiving, everybody goes around and shares like what they're thankful for or whatever. I'm like, I already know this girl about to cry. You know, for no reason. She's like, I thank God. I'm just kidding. I'm like, wow. Don't die. But anyway, okay, so number 1, prayer of forgiveness is
forgiveness.
yeah, forgiving yourself, forgiving others. And we called it a prayer because you pray for other people. Yeah. That's the best way to, you know, if you're not a Christian, you know, you may have prayer and I don't know, but we believe in God. We believe in Jesus, you know, the one true living God. And when you pray, even it says in the Bible, it says, if you have not forgiven, I can't hear you. I can't forgive you. I can't, you know, it's like a glass ceiling. You know what I'm saying? Like God wants to help or whatever, but that very lack of forgiveness and that refusal, you're keeping yourself in prison. You're keeping yourself locked up.
And as a matter of fact, when you say that, it just brings to mind when you don't forgive people that have harmed you. Honestly, you do chain yourself to them. Not physically, obviously, but spiritually.
There was a book. I know we're going back to point 1, but this is such a good point. Yeah. There's a book I think by John Bevere, Offense.
The Bait of Satan.
Yeah, The Bait of Satan. I think it's in that book. I've read like so many books by that man, or listened to so many books, but he said something like during the Civil War to inflict pain on the prisoners of war, they would make the prisoners of war carry a dead corpse, like a dead soldier from their side.
Exactly.
And so they would carry the dead corpse, and as they're marching from city to city, the dead corpse would rot. And as the dead corpse would rot, it would eventually rot the prisoner of war. So, and he likened that to being offended and unforgiveness. It's like when you refuse to forgive, you're just carrying dead weight. That, you know, it's dead weight, and it's going to infect you.
And a lot of times you might say, how can I ever forgive the person who offended me in such a way? And really, I mean, molestation, rape, physical abuse, all those things are horrific. Mm-hmm. And you know, it seems like the worst. I mean, it's almost, you may think it's betraying yourself to forgive them, but actually it is freeing you from them. It is severing the tie that you have, the chain that you have to them.
Yeah.
So
number 1, forgiveness prayer, forgiveness. Number 2, positive self-talk. And I'm going to share the handout that I made for that. And if you're a guy, just change it to guy, because it says I'm beautiful. Change it. I is I'm beautiful. Change it to I'm handsome.
Yes.
And then number 3, a hobby. And number 4?
Meditating on the Word of God. Meditating is like
turning off your brain. Just stop thinking.
Yep.
You know, that's what really meditation in the Bible, when you look at meditating, there's some preacher, I don't know who, guys, one of those men, they liken meditating to cows, and the way cows chew on the grass, they swallow it and then they regurgitate it back up, and they chew it and they regurgitate it back up, and they chew it and they regurgitate it back up. It's like a chant almost. Mm-hmm. It's like you just keep thinking and mulling over it, meditating on the Word. Because what does that do? It turns your brain off. And your brain is your flesh. Mm-hmm. Your mind is the flesh side of you. And the flesh, you know, in Galatians 5, it says, the flesh lusts against the spirit. And these are contrary to one another. So your spirit you is like, ooh, I want to live for God. I want to believe I'm anointed and all this good stuff. And your flesh you, your brain, your mind, it's always going to fight that. It's always going to, you know, like I said, you can't control the thoughts that come into your mind. So meditate on the Word.
Amen.
Memorize it. Like you literally memorize it until you fall in love with it. And you really will. Like as you memorize it, and when you're about to cuss somebody out, you're just like, oh, I remembered that verse. You know? You're like, oh, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but what is helpful for building others up according to their needs. Yeah. And that scripture will pop up.
Yep. Because sometimes, and the last one, therapy.
Yep.
I think that there are people that are trained that, no, I don't think, I know there are people that have amazing training. And they can help you. They can teach you things that you can't know on your own. Teach you ways of changing your thought patterns, your behavior. So don't think that if you're a Christian and you go to therapy that you're a failure.
Or you don't have faith.
Or that you don't have faith. Or, oh, well, God heals. God does heal us. He does. He heals our hearts and he heals our minds. And sometimes it's just a process, you know? Sometimes you got, you know, we all walk our faith out. And in that faith, you know, I mean, we all go to doctors, don't we, you know?
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it's having an outsider looking in.
Yes.
Because when you're in your bubble and you're with your family and your routine and your whatever, you just keep repeating the same vicious cycle. And when I was 30, I went through like it wasn't a midlife crisis. It was more like I don't know.
I would not call it a midlife crisis. I would call it a very self-aware.
Yeah, self-aware. That's good.
Yeah.
So I the company that I worked for at the time, they provided therapy. And it was secular therapy. And I was like, I don't need that. I'm good. I'm Christian. And I decided to go because I was feeling so much anxiety. It wasn't like an anxiety attack or anything, but I just could not get happy. And I was like, what is my problem? You know? And so I went to inner healing. I went to secular therapy. And that's something that I think Christians really need to talk about because in any faith, you need to know that it is okay to get therapy. Like it's like with anything else. If you bust your knee open, you're going to go to the doctor. You know, therapy is just an outside party coming in and analyzing your thought processes, your emotional processes. They're just looking at the inside of the way you think. And they're like, wait, let me stop you right there. Okay, that what you just said? Hey, how about if you try this? You know, because they're trying to give you a strategy to get better.
And, you know, with you saying that, I have to put something out there. And I'm not trying to be... I have heard pastors from the pulpit say, you don't need to go to a therapist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Jesus heals you. And he does. And I'm not saying he doesn't. Pastors, don't say that.
Well, that was all for now, guys. Please let me know what you thought about our first episode. I will have a mystery guest at our next episode next Wednesday. So stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to let me know what you want to talk about. Like any topics you want to hear about. Anything. It could be anything. You know? I don't know. Disney princesses. It doesn't matter. But I will see you.
Awesome.
I'll see you on the flip side. Bye.
Bye.